Saturday, May 6, 2020, Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian views. Today I want to talk about my gold epiphany, or the moment that I decided to buy gold many years ago. After that, I want to talk about a couple of things, or a few things really. The first one, the US jobs data. I need to cover that, of course. It was a big surprise the way the number came out. I want to talk as well about how to survive the current psychological warfare, and that's what I think it is. It's a crisis that is a psychological warfare on society and individuals as a result, and how you can try to fight in this warfare. In my opinion, it's not easy. There's a lot of cognitive dissonance, a lot of division, and that's what I want to cover at the end. So first, let's go through the first time I bought gold. So first of all, I'll go through my background a little bit. I started out in the financial sector back in the late 80s when I lived in Switzerland, Geneva, Switzerland. I got a job for a small private bank in Switzerland. So we dealt mostly in foreign exchange, in bonds, some stocks for our clients, but we also had some gold for our clients. And it was more the unallocated gold. It was part of the foreign exchange transactions. So I didn't think much of gold at the time. Prior to getting my first job, I remember my dad did buy some gold. His bank in Switzerland, where we were living, said to him, maybe you should buy some gold. And he did. And it wasn't even physical. So it was with the bank. And that's the only thing really I remember vividly about gold. And that for my dad, he didn't really think it was a great move, because I think he was thinking it was going to go up. That's probably what he was sold on. And I think he bought it pretty much around mid-late 80s as well. And gold wasn't doing very well at that time. He eventually, I think, got out in the early 90s. Didn't lose any fiat money. At that time, I just thought, he didn't lose any money. So, yeah, my dad wasn't too impressed with gold. So I never thought too much more about that. But, and then I came to work in London, in the city of London, a few years after I started in Switzerland. I worked always in the bond markets for institutional clients. So I never really dealt in gold. The only gold I bought in those days was our wedding ring for my wife and I back in 1993. So that's the only experience I had with gold. So as the years went by, I did well in my job in the city. I started paying into a private pension as well. And we were told by the financial advisor, you have to have a balanced portfolio. So we picked a balanced portfolio. My wife as well, she had her own private pension. So we picked geographically and by sector, US stock fund, UK stock, UK property, Asia. So we did all that. And the fund did very well, of course, the pension fund. And the companies and banks I worked for, they contributed partly to my private pension. So, yeah, by 2000, that private pension was doing well. But I never really thought about it too much, because it's something, when you're in your mid-30s, you're just thinking of paying in for the next 10, 15, 20 years. But then we had the dot-com bust in 2000, 2001. And even though our funds were not directly invested in internet stocks or .com stocks. The whole market took a hit, and our private pension took a big hit. By 2002, we were disillusioned about that whole thing, that whole story. But looking back in hindsight, of course, if we had held a lot of that money just in US stocks, it would have done well. But the UK FTSE, for example, back then it reached 7,000. Just recently we got back to 5,000. So we decided that it would be a good idea to try something different, something alternative. And we came up with the gold idea. And I don't remember exactly how we came to the how can I say, decision to buy gold. But I had been reading by then, with the internet, advent of the internet, I'd been reading a lot about free markets, laissez-faire, Austrian School of Economics. I had read Atlas Shrugged as well by Ayn Rand in the late 90s, early 2000s. It took a while to read that book because I was busy at work, and it's a really thick book. I really enjoyed that book, not all parts of it, but the general message was good. And so, yeah, subconsciously it must have been there. Let's try gold. So I decided to buy gold, my wife and I really. And that was back in June of 2002. And I've even got here the invoice for the first purchase of gold coins that I made. And they were Krugerrands. At the time as well, Krugerrands were still in the public conscience from the 80s. Krugerrands were big, not sovereigns. And so we decided to buy Krugerrands. How did I find out about John Haynes, the jeweler in the city of London? Well, I just searched it on the internet, and I found a list of bullion dealers, and John Haynes happened to be the one closest to my office. It was just about a 15 minute walk from my office. He'd been in business for a long time. His father started the jeweler back in the late 50s, and he dealt in bullion coins. It's unusual because a lot of jewelers don't, but he did, and he happened to have very good competitive prices, Mr. Haynes. So that day I decided, probably during my lunch break, to go there and get the Krugerrands. You can see that's a 1 ounce Krugerrand, actually. That's not a mistake. That's the price, £225 and 45 pence. And the first time I held the Krugerrands, when I picked them up from Mr. Haynes, I was shocked how heavy that coin was and how beautiful it was. Even though I have to say, compared to some other coins, the Krugerrand isn't that nice. It's very plain. But for me, being my first gold coin, it looked really beautiful. And it is. I'm not saying it isn't. And then went back to the office, and I actually showed my colleagues. And they were shocked as well how heavy it was. So that was the first time I bought gold. And it led to me looking into gold a lot more, following the gold market, of course. When you invest in something or you're committed to something, you have an interest. And so that's how I started following gold, following the gold price, realizing that there was some shenanigans going on with COMEX. I learned very quickly about it. I started following jsmindset.com, Jim Sinclair's website. Started reading a lot more about gold, the history of gold. And then that's how I've been learning about the monetary system. And I've done a lot of reading about it over the years. And that's what triggered me into reading about gold and learning everything about the central banks, their scheme, buying all the books that I have here, Creature from Jekyll Island, Secret of the Federal Reserve. So yes, it's nice that gold has protected my savings, because now we're £1,000 higher, despite all the moves we've seen recently. And I'm still convinced, of course, that gold will protect my savings going forward. And why is that? Well, because I've done my homework, and I know that when central banks create money out of thin air or inflate the system, eventually that paper money will become worth less and less versus real money, gold and silver. So yeah, aside from helping me protect my savings, it's given me a great education into how the world works. And yeah, of course, I had to make the move to study. Gold didn't tell me go and study, but it triggered me to do that. So hopefully some of you, if you're new to the channel, might have the same epiphany moment. That's why when I do my videos, I'm not pushing people to buy gold. I'm pushing them to learn about what's going on, and then it's up to them to decide whether they think what's going on warrants them having some precious metals. And that's why I also have my promo codes for gold investments or Glint. I didn't start this channel to push or sell gold. It's just that people have asked me, well, so where can I get gold? They've done their homework and they've decided that they want to have some gold. So I've given them some options, but I always tell people, do your homework, get the best price, get the best deal. Don't go to gold investments just because I have my promo code, or to Glint just because I have my promo code. Be your own man or your own woman. That's what I say. And if you do go to gold investments or Glint, yeah, that helps. But it's not the be all for me. Just wanted to let you know. So let's go to the US jobs data. Yeah, it was a big shock, big surprise. When the number came out, I think market expected an increase in unemployment by 8 million, and you had an increase in employment by about 2.5 million, I think, or thereabouts. So it was a difference of 10 million. And I thought to myself, and I even tweeted, either the economic forecasters have no clue, or this number is not credible. That was my first reaction. But reading a few articles here this morning and yesterday as well, one from Zero Hedge, which is more alternative, one from the FT, I think it's a symptom of the fact that we are in an unprecedented crisis. And I know a lot of people, and me included, think it's one of these, right? Anyway, so yeah, the jobs data, I think, as I said, yeah, there's a lot of volatility. There's a lot going on that economists have never seen. So from reading some articles, it looks like economists and even public officials hadn't realized that quite a few people had been coming back to work. The other thing I would say, this jobs data is actually a survey. It's not the BLS going out there and counting, asking every company how many people they hired. They do a survey. And I think in the environment that the economy has been in the US and everywhere else, you have a lot of people who are not doing surveys. Their companies are like shut down. So I think we need to look at this number, maybe, yeah, kind of in the middle of the expectations to see where the real picture is. Of course, things will improve because they can't keep going down as they did in April, March and April. People will come back to work, but my feeling is that the powers that be want to drag this on and on and on. So what about the stock market and the gold and silver market? Gold and silver got hit hard yesterday. But despite the move yesterday in the precious metals, silver is still $6 above the low it hit in March. Gold is more than $200 above the low it hit in March as well, around 1460. I think we closed around 1685 yesterday, late yesterday. On the year, gold's still up. The stock market, I thought we would rebound. I made a video in late March. I thought we were at a low in March, a short-term, medium-term low, and that we would rebound towards a 50% or 61.8% retracement. We've gone a lot further past that level. And why is that? Well, I think it's a little bit of euphoria mixed in with trillions of dollars from the central banks. And I think it's a very tricky game. If you're going to invest in a company, maybe invest closer to home, because that's what you're doing when you invest in the stock market. You're buying fractions of companies. So make sure you know what that company is doing. And it doesn't have to be a public company in the stock market. It could be your own business. Invest in yourself. Or it could be family. Invest in them. So that's what I'm trying to say. Or do invest in the stock market if you think you are clever enough and you've done your homework, just like I've been doing my homework for precious metals. Go ahead and stay in the stock market. But I don't think we're out of the woods yet in terms of volatility for the stock markets. We keep hearing, at least here in the UK, I'm not too sure about the US. I think the US is very divided. You've got one side pushing for things to get back to normal, and you've got another one pushing for a continuation of this crisis, a lot like here in the UK. That's what's going on. That's the other thing I would say, how to survive in this crisis. I would start with trying to tune off from all the distractions, all the division, and focus on yourself and on your family. Focus on your business, on your job, if you still have one, hopefully. Focus on the things that you love doing. Like yesterday, I went out in the evening and played golf. I love golf. I've been playing it since I was a teenager. So have a hobby and try to not get too bogged down on all the stuff that's being bombarded in the news. Focus on yourself more. It might sound selfish, but if you look after yourself and your family and you stay healthy, productive, there's nothing else that you should really care about, in my opinion. Yeah, don't watch television. I haven't watched television in over 5 years. I don't watch television. The only time I see part of the news is when people put clips of the news on YouTube or on the internet. So I never watch that anymore. I used to years ago to tune in for the nightly news. I think that's the worst thing you can do, is to have a television and keep it on all the time and listening to 24-hour news. And that's what I try to do. And I have to say, sometimes it's really tough. As I said, it's a psychological warfare. A couple of days ago, they came out here in the UK, and they've said that it's going to be mandatory to wear a face covering in the public transport. And that means buses, trains, even airplanes, even ferries, which I think is totally ridiculous, because We've seen even Dr. Fauci say that it's just a symbol, right? And it might help. It might help. So that got me down quite a bit because I can see where they're going after the masks. You know, they're going to push the vaccines, and I think that's really, really bad. And it's all part of this fourth industrial revolution, the vaccine, because I think the vaccine will have some kind of tracking device, and it all melds together with this AI world, I think. And but I can't really do anything about it right now. At least I know that that's their plan. So that's how I see this crisis. It's a psychological operation to try to make you behave as they want you to behave. It's very difficult. You have to find ways around it, and you have to find a way not to let them get to you. And not easy, but hopefully by knowing that that's the agenda, it will help you. Just to let you know, tonight, London time, 7:30 or 2:30 Eastern time, I'm going to be on a roundtable like I was last week with Rethinking the Dollar. If you want to tune in on YouTube, it's a live stream, 2:30 p.m. Eastern time with Rethinking the Dollar. And other people will be talking about various subjects you might be interested. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the like button. Please share it far and wide. Think about subscribing to my channel if you haven't yet. And you can also follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and all these other platforms below here. I wish you all a great weekend. Take care. Bye.